Fantastic.
I'm pretty good. Thanks, Mike. And how about you?
I'm doing all right. It's been weather's finally getting nice. We can do some gardening now, mow the lawn. It's not no real chance of snow anymore for at least a few months, so that's always good. Then I guess I'll get our sponsorship out of the way, just so we don't forget to do that halfway through the episode. Reptile Rejects is proudly sponsored by Cornell's World. Cornell's World is one of the leaders in reptile caging and reptile supplies in North America. Greg West at Cornell's World will build custom PVC cages, custom incubators, racks, everything in there, even custom glass terrariums. He carries Spider Robotics, so you can get your herp stats, your heat panel, your heat tape, and as well as every other reptile brand from Arcadia to Zoomed to Exoterra. So go make your order today at cornellsworld.com. You can ship anywhere in North America, and he's located in Calgary. Also, the WCRE, the Western Canadian Reptile Expo. The next show is in about a month now in Medicine Hat. So if you're in Southern Alberta, come check it out. If not, hopefully we can make it out to the big August show in Calgary, the biggest reptile expo in Western Canada. And hopefully see you there. Go check out wcre.ca to pre-purchase your tickets or even book some tables if there's any tables left. And yeah, hope to see you people there. Already. How are you doing today, Glenn? How's everything going in the collection?
Going pretty well. First of all, I got to get. You guys are in Toronto, right?
He's in Ottawa, and then I now live in Southern Alberta, but I'm kind of from Vancouver.
Oh, okay. I thought you said Toronto in the text you sent me, and so I brought my hat.
Oh, I'm still a Blue Jays fan.
Well, yeah, you're Canadians. Every Canadian has to be a Blue Jays fan. I found.
Well, it is the only it's the only baseball team we have. Right. But that being said, I don't watch baseball, so I mean, I'll be a fan, but I don't watch baseball at all.
Right. So these guys went to the World Series last year, and I don't get a chance to speak to a lot of Canadians, but my nephew is on their team. Nathan Lucas is my nephew.
That's really cool, though. That's
and so when I get a chance to talk with Canadians, I always bring it up. So there's my plug for my nephew.
I've always been a big Blue Jays fan since I started playing baseball, kind of thing. I'm in a baseball family, so yeah. I don't actually have it on my TV because I just moved, but yeah, no, baseball game's always on when I come home from work, and always watch the Blue Jays. The Mariners really missed their potential of having a whole lot of fans in Vancouver. Well, they used to. There's still a lot of Vancouver fans that are Mariners fans, but yeah, no, the whole country is based. We get Sportsnet, which is obviously part owns the Blue Jays, so it's kind of shoved down.
I get all that. I watch that here, so I get a lot of Canadian news, and they're announcing about baseball, but they're mostly talking about hockey.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, I mean, although I like this, hockey's the big thing here. Let's be honest. Glenn, before we get started, can I ask you a favor? Can you stand up a little bit? I want to see your shirt. I want to know what's at the bottom. Snakes are, and I don't see what's at the bottom there. Snakes are awesome. All right, very cool. Is that a custom?
It's not custom. This is the G.I. Joe villain, whose name is Cobra, I think. And so if you watched cartoons, you guys aren't old enough to have watched this cartoon, but it's an old G.I. Joe cartoon. And that guy was the villain named Cobra. And it's snakes are awesome. And he's holding a bunch of snakes. And I think it came across like on a Facebook ad like 10 years ago. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's a perfect shirt for me. And so I ordered it. And since then, I've had quite a few people ask me, where did you get that shirt? And I'm like, I just stumbled across it and ordered it. And I actually tried to find some replacements, and I can't find it anywhere. So
it's a cool shirt. Sorry, I had to make you stand up. All I could see was snakes are awesome. And for whoever's listening on the air, like it's basically just like, I guess the G.I. Joe, the evil guy on the G.I. Joe holding snakes in his hands. And all I see is snakes are, but you can't actually see the bottom. So that's why I was wondering. Very cool shirt. Very, very neat. So Glenn, nice to meet you. Glad you're on. Before we get started, let's just go with Mike. What's new in your collection? What's new with you in the past week? And then we'll get on to Glenn.
Alrighty. Okay. Well, this is kind of the egg laying season for. I'm sorry, you said to Mike, and then we'll get on with it.
I did, but Glenn, if you want to go first,
Actually, you got Glenn.
Laughed, I would have not caught it. But
I was totally just letting you go. I was like, oh well, we'll just skip our turn. So we tend to do
self-aware.
We tend to do us two for the first 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes, and then it's all you the entire show. So I promise you'll get a turn.
I'm going to sit back. I'll enjoy hearing more about you guys.
All right, let's start with Mike and his hair.
It's going good. I just split up the Bahamas today because I think I almost caught the female somehow constricting him a little bit. So maybe it was just, but like not biting him. So like, I don't know. Maybe it was just her telling him she doesn't really want to breed anymore because they've been locking up nonstop the last couple months. So I split them up. Although I think they still want to breed, but I'll at least give them a couple days to maybe chill out. Maybe because it's kind of almost at the end of their breeding season anyways for the Chilobothris kind of guys, so it's kind of the time to split them up anyways. So yeah, I'm gonna do that. Had a pre-lay shed from the Kentucky female, so I guess in another week hopefully I'll have some nice Kentucky pine eggs again, so that'll be the third year. So hopefully get some big pearly white eggs out of her. And then I think the black milk female's going into her pre-lay shed, so that'll be cool. And then the Wild Rose Pass Trans-Pecos are all together. And last year I didn't get eggs till the end of June, so I assume they're probably going to be on that same schedule. So they're going to be together for at least another month until I for sure know they're gonna lay eggs. I don't think there's too much else. The newts are eating a lot of like up their food because they're getting large, and the amount I was feeding them is now like they seem to eat their food within a few minutes now. So I'm throwing in a bit more bloodworms and brine shrimp to get them going. So yeah, not too much other than that. I think everything else is doing great. The carpets from Dom are eating fantastic, and they're looking really good. So in a couple months when they're out of quarantine, I'm gonna bump them up to some nice 3-foot cages, and they'll be rocking and rolling in a couple years for sure. But yeah, tortoises are doing good. I need to build them an outside kind of pen, but they're really loving the fresh dandelion greens out of the garden. So yeah, no, it's all going good. What about you, Dom?
You had to just ask me as I'm trying to take a sip of my coffee there. Appreciate that. Honestly, life is good, man. Just so we're clear, the carpets from Dom really means the carpets that I got from Shan that I gave to Michael. You know what I mean? But they're a nice pair of Jaltons, which I loved, but I wanted fully perfect striped Jaltons from Shan, so I got a pair of striped, and Mike got that pair, which I inherited some beautiful snakes in exchange. So on my end, I'm kind of like you. I think I'm kind of done pairing for most of my stuff. I fed everybody like, I don't know, 3-4 days ago, and I haven't put them back together. And I think I might be done for all my winter breeders. I'm kind of at the point where if they haven't produced, I think I'm just going to have to accept that this is just going to be a bad year for me and things aren't happening. I only have one girl that might still go, which, I'll end up having, well, right now I had only 5 females lay, and out of those 5 females, I had 2 full slug clutches. So let's just say that it's by far my crappiest year I've ever had. Last year, I think I had 140 babies. This year, I had less than 40 eggs in the incubator, and I lost about half of them in the incubator to mold and all tons of issues. So it's not looking great, except for that, snake-wise, I don't know. Halfway through the week, I walked into my snake room and I found a big woma on the ground. So I was not really impressed with myself. It did not escape from the cage. So if you're thinking I probably forgot a cage open, I did not. But when I clean certain cages that are really bad, I put them in a Tupperware. Then I clean the cage and so on. I just never took out the snake of the Tupperware, and I just left it in there. And it was just, those blue bins with the lids, like the typical, like they're good enough to hold a snake in there, but if they really want to get out, they get out. Anyway, I just walked into the room and like a 5-foot woma is just right across the room. Like, oh, yeah, I guess I never put you back in. I'm glad you're right there. I didn't even know it was missing, so I was glad to find it. I mean, my room, I don't know if you guys do the same thing, but my room itself is a cage. Like the entire room is completely, there's no way an animal can get out of the room. So when I lose a snake, it's just a matter of finding it in the room. Yeah, but I felt like an idiot. Anyway, it was kind of funny. Except for that, the rings I got from Mike are doing amazing. They're little devils. They always want more food. I fed them twice now, and they're doing amazing. Keeping them quite humid. I don't know if it's too humid. Like I basically always keep condensation on the lid. You think that's too wet, Mike? Or is that kind of what I should be doing? I don't know if he's frozen or he can talk.
Like
He's not
frozen.
moving. Yeah. Well, at least he froze with a nice smile on his face, right? How about I'll ask you, Glenn. Like, look at that pretty frozen face.
Yeah, you want to keep that humidity on them. With that thin skin, they have a difficult time. Oh, in my experience, I've had a difficult time getting. We're talking about ring pythons, right?
Yeah, we are. Yeah. Not ringneck snakes.
Okay. And so, yeah, I've had the experience where they will not shed very well, or certainly not in single pieces, unless the humidity's pretty good in the room.
Cool. So, yeah, I'm new to rings, so I haven't kept rings before, but I was always told to keep them kind of like Colombian rainbows, like or Brazilian rainbows, where you keep that wetness and that humidity, and I just they're still small. I'm still keeping them in 6 quarts. That's what my quarantine is. Unfortunately, my quarantine is I have 12 bins of 6 quarts or 1 4-footer. So there's kind of nothing in between. So at least I have a true quarantine room and a truly separated now, which is much safer than before. But that is literally all I have for quarantine is so. But they're what, like 14, 15 inches long, right? So they're fine in there, and they're doing really, really well. It's kind of a cool experience for me. I like them. I wish they stayed their neonatal colors because they're already dolling out, which is too bad. But they're cool little things. Except for that, in the collection, I mean, I'm having issues with my incubator just part of my entire year. You guys might laugh at this, but I'm now electrocuting myself every time I touch my incubator, which is just great.
Maybe that's an issue.
So it's the same incubator I've been using for like 8 or 9 years, but somehow I bet you the heat tape that goes around, probably one of the connection has touched the metal of. So now all the shells, if I touch them, I'm basically electrocuting myself. But the bins are plastic, so it's not going anywhere. But
you're grounding it. You're grounding it.
I'm just saying that right now the problem is like I'm 3/4 of the way. Like they've been there for 40 days, but it just started electrocuting myself whenever I touch it. So, but I'm not going to go in there, take out the eggs, and figure out where the short circuit is, right? So. Anyway, long story short, I added some little rubbers just around the front lips of the metal shelves. So at least, and I'm just taking out the egg boxes nice and safely anyway for whoever's finding that funny. It's going very well, but that's been a new challenge right now. So whenever I open the lids, I always got to be careful on the shelves because you know how like it's a typical like a Coke fridge or whatever you'd find at the stores, right? So you've got the metal tracks on the side with the shelves. So, and I've always done my electrical tape. I like using like actual duct tape, like not duct tape, but tape that is metal duct tape for actual duct work. But of course, it conducts electricity, right? So, the foil paper. So anyway, that's kind of my mistake there. I'm gonna have to fix that. But for now, I decided I'm not touching it because I don't actually think it affects the eggs. I don't know. I mean. It shouldn't, like the eggs are in plastic and all that. So I really don't think it's an issue, but, just something else to talk about how, another one of my many mistakes, which I thought you guys would get a chuckle out of it. Except for that, eggs are still incubating. I should have things hatching out in about 2 weeks. I think I'm about 2 weeks away from the first babies coming out. And life is good. That's about it. So, let's start with you, Glenn. So how about this? Now it's your turn. What's up? What's new with you? How's your week going? How's your season? You go for it. The mic's yours.
I can't think of anything to say now. I'm glad to hear that other people run into problems. I am constantly making mistakes, and I don't mind making the mistakes the first time. It's the third or fourth time, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've already learned this lesson, and then I did it again. Um, but there are a lot of stories I'm sure we can all tell about trying to figure out the best way to do certain things. And for me, since we're this is the kind of the time of year where colubrids, or most of the colubrids, North American colubrids in particular, are laying a bunch of eggs. Um, I went to Taiwan just about 2 weeks ago, and I was there for like 10 days. And I had quite a few colubrids ready to lay. And I was thinking, I think one or two or maybe even three of these uh, snakes will lay while I'm gone. So, friend of mine, Riley Jemison, you guys know Riley. Um, Riley came over and checked on them every 2 or 3 days. And first time he texted me. Actually, I was headed to the airport. I went and checked on my car or my room one last time while the car was waiting in the driveway for me, and my first female started laying. So I'm texting Riley on the way to the airport. Maybe you should come tomorrow. So he shows up that day and he gets that clutch of eggs, and another female's laying. And by the time I get home after 10 days, he's pulled out like 8 clutches of eggs. And for me, that's a pretty big number. That's
That's it.
a lot.
But at least you have a friend that actually knows how to take care of eggs and all that, right? You have zero worry. Like when you talk about Riley, like he's a veteran of this shit, right? So he's got no issues whatsoever. Like that's something that, like, the only person I could trust with that's in my area is an hour away, man. And I'd be like, you're coming. Like, too bad, you're doing it. Like, so at least you have somebody you can count on. Anyway, that's cool. Keep going, man. That's a great story.
Yeah. In the old days, I would have talked to friends who just were not afraid of snakes enough that they could do something. And I would have it all. This is what it is. It's laid out. Let me show you how to do it. And then they invariably would mess it up. And other times I just gave them a good lay box and thought, as long as they don't lay in the first few days, it should be okay. But usually wasn't the best results, and it certainly wouldn't have been on this trip. So I'm very fortunate, very grateful for Riley that I had a good couple of weeks. My incubator's getting pretty full, and in large part because I had someone to look out for me. So that was a nice option for me. Mostly corn snake eggs this time of year, but a couple others had bull snake clutch and something else that laid. So, oh yeah, variable king snakes. So anyway, getting a lot of eggs, that's a pretty good situation this season. Can you hear my grandkids screaming? Because I sure can. My wife was going to keep them quiet. My grandkids are spending the night. So anyway, I'm on the podcast.
I was gonna say you can text away. We can chat for a few. I don't know if you have earphones or things like that, but if not,
I'm good at it not bothering me. I just know it's not great for the recording.
No, it's okay then. We'll figure it out. It's not actually that loud. It's not really a big deal.
Okay. So yeah, it's been good. One of the things that's been interesting for me is I have kind of built up this collection over time and tried to get a few more species, and in particular a few more unique species. And I've been getting these babies and raising them up, and sort of all this has kind of come together, and I'm getting more and more. Every year you get more eggs and more eggs and more eggs. And so then I start getting rid of some adults that are a little more common or whatever, because I just can't deal with so many babies. And we've kind of hit the perfect storm where I've got all these unique snakes that are now just all sort of at the same time reaching sexual maturity, and I'm starting to get eggs from all of these. And it also coincided with me having an early retirement. And so it gives me a little more time to deal with that. And so this has been my first breeding year where I didn't have a full-time job. And so that has made a gigantic difference in trying to get things together at the right time, monitor things a little bit better, catch eggs a little earlier, all the things that kind of help increase your odds of success. And so things have gone well. It's been fun. And I think I'm going to have a lot of babies this year.
It's a good problem to have, especially if you're retired, man. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie. For me, one of my biggest stresses if I have too many eggs. It's stressful, man, when you have a full-time job, kids, and all that kind of stuff. And I've been kind of doing like you, where like as adults get bigger, my grow-ups come, I kind of get rid of a couple of adults and I slim to have only thing. And I've been doing that for a while now. And I've been doing smaller clutches, but more clutches, trying to always keep my numbers under 100. And this year was the first time where I got rid of even more adults and I started breeding with even less than usual. And then I had a shit season on top. So just as a word of warning, sometimes if you slim too much, you might have a bad season and be like, where the heck are all my babies? Anyway, you're going to hear me complaining about this for about a year now until next year.
Yeah. And that's always a challenge. It's like, this snake doesn't really work into my plans, but holy cow, is this snake a good breeder? And it's hard to get rid of those snakes. It's like, this one's reliable. It produces healthy, beautiful babies, but it's just going to produce a bunch of stuff that's not that easy to sell, or, just doesn't work into my plans as well. So those snakes are tough to get rid of. But yeah, the truth is there are times when I've thought, oh, good, a few more eggs went bad. That's a few more mouths I don't have to feed. I don't need all of them. Just give me a few of these.
Yeah, for sure. So do we want to go into maybe how you fit into herpetoculture, or even just kind of what maybe some of the species that you're working with kind of thing, just to give Dom an idea of and the viewers kind of thing?
I think I'll give you a little bit of my background, which will help you realize where my giant areas of ignorance. And that is, I came into snakes as a pet hobbyist. I've kept all sorts of different types of animals. Fish was my first love. I had lots of aquariums. I bred lots of different types of fish, and then I've had all sorts of small mammals and exotic things, but mostly kind of exotic small stuff. And then got Pac-Man frog back when they were not all that common, and got one as a little tiny baby that would swallow a goldfish, and then it couldn't sit upright because the goldfish was so big in its belly, and it grew to the size of a dinner plate and was eating medium-sized adult rats. And so I just love nature. I love to see the animals and to mess with them. And eventually I traded that Pac-Man frog for a snake at a pet store. And the guy placed an old, I'm sure at this point, it was back when there were only normals and they were all, wild caught. And he placed this baby ball python on my hand, and it was just balled up into a ball. And I remember my hand shaking as that little baby ball python sat on my hand. And I went home and tried to figure out how to feed it, and, bought the little pamphlet. And back then, those little books they had on how to care for them, and ended up growing it to adulthood. And I thought, you know what, it'd be interesting to try to figure out how to breed these. And so this was before there was an internet. And so I looked in the back of the newspaper and got through the classified section, and somebody was selling a pair of adult ball pythons. And I looked in my little book, that taught about ball pythons, and read a paragraph on how to sex ball python. And I went to this guy's house, and for the first time I ever probed a snake, it was some stranger snake that I got off of the classified section of the newspaper. And according to my probe, he had two females, which is why I think he couldn't breed them. And so I thought, that's perfect. That goes with my male. And so I bought those two, brought them home, bred them. Then I had to figure out, well, now what do you do with the eggs? Learned how to mess with the eggs. Thankfully, I had a guy who was a snake breeder who I got my rodents from at that time. And whenever I had a question, I could go to him, and he was very helpful. And you need to do this and this. And so I just kind of limped my way along, and I produced babies, and I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. And the thing I love about snakes is they're so low maintenance. You can handle them. They're easy to handle and interact with. They're easy to photograph. I like to take pictures of my animals, so that's fun. And they only eat, once a week, once a month, depending on the snake. And then they only poop once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week. Not as much as some of those other animals that we would normally have. And so you end up recognizing, boy, I could have a few different animals that are very different, snakes that are different, interesting, colorful, and it's not something that I have to worry about every day, spending 45 minutes or an hour feeding and cleaning and just keeping them alive. And so that's kind of what attracted me to get a pair and then take some babies and trade them to get another pair and then get some trio. And so I just kind of stumbled into it that way. And because of that, I don't kind of have the zoological knowledge that a lot of people who are really into it have. And you'll rarely hear me using the Latin scientific names. I can't pronounce them. I feel silly trying. People will say them to me, and I'm like, that sounds familiar, but I can't recognize it. And so I tend to then only know about the snakes that are in my collection, the ones that I have bred. So a lot of times people will be talking about things that I know are reasonably common, but I haven't had them, so I don't really know much about them. But I have had quite a few things. One of the things I do is I acquire a snake that I'm interested in for a variety of reasons. The way it acts, the way it looks, whatever's interesting to me about it. And then I get it and I try to take good care of it. I try to have it live in my environment. I've got one room for all my species, which have a wide variety of needs. And so I've got to try different ways to make sure they get the right humidity, the right heat, the right cool. And so some snakes just end up not being able to adapt very well to my situation. And no matter what I try, I don't seem to be able to create the right situation for them. And so over time, I keep them for a while. Maybe I can't get them to breed, or maybe they become problem feeders because they don't like my situation. And I'll eventually just say, you know what, this snake isn't for my collection. And so I've had quite a few where I've kept them for a while. Some I've kept them, I've bred them, and they're just too big, too big for my space. And so I end up, I've had a lot of snakes that I don't currently have. And some just fit really well for my situation. And I've more than once bought snakes just to raise them because I like them. Did that with Eastern Indigo. I've done it with the false water cobras a few times. That's false water cobras I love. They've got such a great personality and easy to care for, but I don't have a big enough snake room to keep those snakes. And so I'll buy them as a baby. I'll raise them up to basically to nearly adulthood. And then I'll find somebody who needs an adult and let them go. And because I just enjoy interacting with them, I like raising them. I don't need to breed them for them for me to enjoy them. So because of that, I know a reasonable amount about snakes I've kept, but snakes I haven't kept, for the most part, I'm if they're like one I've kept, I can make some guesses, and if they're not, I don't know. So
Just so I just want to give my little bit here. I actually love to have a keeper that kept a little bit of everything, started just keeping whatever it is that they found in the pet store and stuff like that. Because
oh yeah,
I feel like if you talk to most of the older people that started, that's kind of like what most people used to do. Like I
Mhm.
kept in the 90s, so I think you might. I'm not quite at retirement age, so I'm going to say that I'm younger than you. I am 9.5 years away though, so I can count.
Okay.
But I kept kind of the same thing, like keeping all that. And I'm looking at Mike right now. Mike seems to be keeping like kind of like us back then. Like he's just accumulating, and trying everything, which again, I find that gives you kind of a broad appreciation for reptiles and broad knowledge. When a
Yeah.
lot of the people now tend to just get a lot of animals and like their first animals are already breeding. Their first animals they're getting animals to breed without getting animals just to keep, right?
Uh-huh.
Which I don't know. I kind of like that. And for not knowing all the names of anything, you can look at all the other shows. Every time you guys talk about color, like, can you just tell me what that Latin name means? Like, I'm like, and I keep saying it almost every show, guys, please just give the common names for the folks that are less intelligent than you that don't really know it. So, you know what? There's knowing the common names or knowing the Latin names. I don't think makes you any better of a keeper or smarter in any way, shape, or sort. I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Um, I'd love to know what you keep, though. Like, I appreciate your story. What do you keep? What's in your collection? What's in your full room?
I've got a list right here. I'll read you real quickly. I'll run down corn snakes, bull snakes, San Diego gopher snakes, leonis, which are variable king snakes, Chinese beauty snakes, Madagascar cat-eyed snakes, uh, black-headed spotted whip snakes, Barron's racers, eastern garter snakes, tricolored hognose, 100-flower rat snakes, Japanese forest rat snakes, velvet swamp snakes, uh, black-headed royal rat snakes, Peruvian calico snakes, and then black rat snakes or eastern rat snakes. And then I have some Russian rat snakes that I'm raising up. And then in the Boyd's section, I've got Madagascar tree boas, Sanzinia, Colombian rainbow boas, Sonoran desert dwarf boas, Tamaulipas cloud forest dwarf boas, Bismarck ringed pythons, rough scaled pythons, and El Salvadorian dwarf boas. That's the list.
Damn, all I gotta say is I think you named about 6 or so species that I've literally never heard of, which is that's kind of cool. Like kind of cool. Like some of them I've heard of before, but I've literally not seen a picture before. But
Actually,
that was a lot
some of
them.
these you've probably seen Glen's pictures online because he takes phenomenal pictures of his specimens. And actually, I think throughout the show he'll probably pop some of them up on the screen as
Yeah, I
well.
think if we can, every time you talk of a species, it'd be good to see him just so the people like me that aren't maybe as familiarized in colubrids, that'd be pretty cool.
Okay, yeah, I'll try to do that. Yeah, so some of those are not that common, and a lot of the more common ones I tend to try to have less common morph versions of them. So like the Chinese beauty snakes, which are beautiful rat snakes in their own right, have a calico version of them, and those are they look sort of like a palmetto corn snake, but bigger and a little more white. And those are pretty amazing. And so let me see if I can. Oh yeah, let's see if I can pull this. I'm going to see if I can share this with you. But yeah, I love these guys. They are pretty cool.
So, by curiosity, are you just that type of person that prefers having things that not everybody else has? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
or is it just because there's
100%. Yes.
okay?
I
Because
don't
I know
want.
this.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
want shoes that somebody else has. That's why I love my snakes are awesome shirt. So
yeah,
let's see.
yeah. I totally get that. I'm kind of like that. Where when I get something and everybody else has it, it kind of loses its luster. It's not as
Yeah.
It's not as nice. So those are two beauty snakes.
Yeah. So this is the normal Chinese beauty here.
Wow.
It is a beautiful snake. And then this is a hypocalico morph of that same. So Chinese beauties are not all that uncommon. And there's a few different morphs out there. But it's, I mean, I don't, I'm trying to think of the last show I've been to. I haven't been to too many shows that have the hypocalico Chinese. It's not uncommon for me to go to even a bigger show where I have 2 or 3 different types of snakes that aren't anywhere else at the show. And so, I just, even the things that are a little more common, I try to have some unique versions of them.
Very cool. What's the mode of inheritance on those? Are they recessive, incomplete dominance?
Recessive, simple recessive.
Both of them?
Yeah, both traits. Yeah.
Interesting.
With colubrids, that's almost always true. There's not a ton. There are a few, but there aren't a ton of traits that are inherited other than other than looks that are kind of line bred, or ones that are
pattern kind of.
Yeah, the pattern ones.
Yeah.
Most of the pattern ones are simple recessive traits. And there's a couple, and I'm trying to think of some. I can only think of a couple.
I think it's like Motley and Stripe are not really recessive.
Yeah, no, they're both simple recessive, but they do align with each other. What is it?
The Tessera.
Tessera, thank you. Yeah, Tessera is a. We're not supposed to call it codominant. What is it?
Incomplete dominant.
Incomplete dominant. Thank you.
So this is kind of blowing my mind here. So you're telling me that in colubrids, most of the genes are all recessive. There's not very many.
Like now that I think of it too, it's like, there probably is a lot that are like, maybe some of them are incomplete dominant, kind of like how we've like figured out, like how, like, I mean, with carpets, like they have like a visual het. So like maybe they're like in between, but but like I'm thinking of it too. They're like, I think there's maybe some dominant or incomplete.
What you're calling an incomplete dominant there, I would call het, but I guess that's similar in ball python language. That's the same sort of thing. So like the eastern,
not the same thing though.
Eastern black rat snake. If you have a leucistic and breed it to a normal, it creates what's called a rusty, which is kind of I don't know, looks like the snake's rusty.
So that would be 100% an incomplete dominant.
Yes, but
okay.
if you breed 2 rusties together, you get a leucistic.
Of course, because you'll get a quarter chance of leucistics, you'll get 50% of rusties and 0, which is okay.
So there are some. I know Pacific gopher snakes are incomplete dominant for stripe, but other gopher snakes that have stripe aren't incomplete dominant. They're simple recessive. And so I'm not saying that there's 0.001%. I'm saying that there's probably less than 5%.
So most are recessive. So the reason I'm asking that is that most times when we talk about genetics, most genes tend to follow the same pattern in almost every animal, right? Like if you took albino is recessive in ball pythons, it's recessive in carpet pythons, it's recessive in, name that animal, right? They're almost all recessive. So, but often when you hear it for other things, it tends to be the same thing too. So for example, hypo, even though a lot of people will say hypos are recessive, most hypos tend to be incomplete dominant. So you tend to have a low amount of hypo and a high amount of hypo, which is exactly that. It's an incomplete dominant trait, right? When the het are when you've got only one allele with the trait, you tend to have a low demonstration or a low phenotype of the animal, right? Which many of those are just like exanthic. Most exanthic, which is again not even axanthic because the A means absence of, which is it's not an absence, it's a reduction. So it should be hypoxanthism, which is really what we call axanthic. But those should all be usually incomplete dominant. So when you say your animal, and the only reason I'm bringing this up is when you say your animal is hypo, is your hypo, when you breed a hypo to a normal, does the normal have any type of hypo look to it or none at all?
None at all.
Okay, so then that one is a true recessive, is what you're saying? Cool.
Yeah,
Just
I think
purely curious, man.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of. I breed quite a few snakes that have a hypo trait, and again, one of the interesting challenges is defining hypo versus T positive. However that works out. Yeah, for me, I'm thinking like leucistic, palmetto in corn snakes. You familiar with the palmetto in corn snakes?
Yeah.
That is a form of leucism. And if you look at normals, you can see the ones that are het are carrying like a lighter, slightly lighter pattern. And somebody told me that, and I was like, I don't know about that. And I took clutches of normals that came out of that were possible het palmetto, and I was like, oh, these you could separate them easily by which ones were dark and which ones were light. It wasn't readily apparent, but if you put them side by side, realizing that's what I'm looking for, you could see it. And so I could see that would be a similar sort of argument there.
That's interesting. I didn't even know about that one, but it makes sense, right? Like, because like with them being that like leucism, and then you think even ball pythons or something like that, right? Where like Mojaves and lessers and all that kind of thing are like a lighter, like almost like they're not normal, but like they're lighter. Like it kind of like that. It makes sense, right? When we think about these things like later on down the road, and it's like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
kind of fits in.
With my Colombian rainbow boas, if I get a het leucistic baby, their belly area is speckled light, and instead of being more of a solid brownish color that the Colombians would be, and so they're readily apparent.
It makes you wonder if at that point, is it a recessive that has a marker, if you want to call it like that? Or is that the actual incomplete dominant, let's say, of the leucistic only affects the belly scales, and the incomplete dominant, when it's on both alleles, then becomes the leucistic form, right? It makes you wonder if it actually is just an incomplete dominant and not a recessive, because many leucistic, let's just say not most, many leucistic tend to be incomplete dominant as well, because they tend to have two different forms and often have a deadly white form depending on which way you get to the leucistic.
But I feel like that's mostly with the patterned Lucy ones though, right? Like spider ball pythons or jaguar carpets, and like those are almost more of like a patterned kind of gene that goes into each other to make a lethal, which is like interesting how like they all follow that same thing. Like I bet you
pattern, yeah.
Like I'm not sure if I've seen this. I guess we might have hit on it with Dave too, where we're talking about the scorias, but maybe they're a lethal super or not. I don't know. I don't think anybody's ever seen a super scoria, and they're known to kind of have a bit of a head wobble kind of thing, right? So that would fall right in line with the rest of them.
Yeah, I just, when I'm working with it, it's like I'd like to figure out what I'm making, and so I can let people know what they are genetically.
Exactly.
But I often feel like I'm not sure we really know what all's going on there with a lot of the things.
Yeah,
because
that's why we got
so many expressions of the same genes. I'll line up 5 snakes and say, these are, according to my calculations, these all have the same genes. And my guess is that there's something else floating in there as well that we just haven't identified and are able to label and say, oh, see, these are those because they have whatever trait.
Yeah, for sure. That's why we're lucky to have friends like Warren Booth to ask questions to. I wonder if he's probably not in the chat, but he'll probably listen to this later. Actually, we haven't gotten corrected by Warren though, and he actually follows us on stuff. So maybe he'll correct us once in a while. Feel free to correct us, Warren. But yeah, no, it's good that I kind of find it fun too when we're all on kind of in that like whole kind of niche of herpers, right? That like we all kind of like we all have like our own kind of scope of what we love about it and what we want to get out of it. But then I also appreciate how you do your thing, how Dom does his thing, how Craig does his thing, right? Like Craig being like, oh yeah, I produced this corn snake morph that Lee Abbott made that has like 14 morphs in it, and yeah, just go over there and ask him what's in here because I don't even know. I found that funny.
His unicolors, yeah.
Oh yeah, the unicolors.
Yeah. Those are amazing animals. I did that where I put some snakes together, corn snakes, and they were a motley line. I was trying to produce ice motleys, and somehow something else popped into it, and it was hard to tell if ultramel or lavender was in it, but I didn't have any lavender in my line that I knew about, and people would come to me swearing there was lavender in there, and eventually I was like, and so I named them mystery motleys. They're mystery. There's something going on. Look at them, see if you think you can guess, and if you want one, they're really inexpensive because I don't know what they are. It's corn snakes in particular. You so likely to have some other gene sort of sneaking in to a project you're working on, and all of a sudden you're like, I don't know what's happening now.
Yeah, it makes it kind of fun. So I was going to say one of the biggest problems, anyway, I think it's a problem in the hobby, is that we have too many different terminology for the same thing. So when you're talking about like your T positive, T negative albinos, you can't differentiate them, but like what's the difference between like a hypomelanistic animal or a T positive, right?
Yeah.
Or a T, right? Which is the same animal. Or if you ask what's the difference between an axanthic or an anery, it's the same animal. There's only a yellow pigment. They're both missing the yellow pigment or the red pigment, which is again the same pigment, right? So why do we call all these different, like depending on if you're talking about a boa or if you're talking about a corn snake or if you're talking about a different animal, one will be hypo, the other one will be T negative, one will be anery, these ones will be axanthic, these ones, but they're all the same. If it's phenotypically showing the same let's say mutation, why do we call it differently depending on which species we have? And I think that's a huge problem. Like it should be the same, like albino is albino across the board, but something as simple as like, a pied. Why aren't all pieds all called pieds? And the best example I'll give this is like when Nick Munn came on and says, well, I produced the first stonewash, and stonewash is actually a pied. But I didn't call it pied because then everybody would always ask me the question of, well, it doesn't look like a pied, but it is a pied gene. Well, it should have been called some kind of a pied, right? Like a pied-bald stonewash or a pied something. But I don't know. I just feel like across the board with all our genes, it should just be the same thing, man. We should be calling a hypo. We should be calling all these animals the same thing on every species. Anyway, sorry, my rant's over. Go, Mike.
Well, I would say it's exacerbated by when you have different species where you have combinations of genes that you agree on. So an anery albino in a corn snake is a snow. But then if you add, I think it's hypo in that. What do you add to it to make it a blizzard? But then if you do those same genes in the bull snake, it's an ivory, but a snow is something else. And it's like, no, I can't do that. And so for bull snakes in particular, I just place what genes they have. I can't give you the combination trait names because
that's such a good point, Glenn. I didn't even remember that, how horrible that is. That is a really good point. You know what's even worse is like in carpet pythons, a ghost is not the same thing on this side of the globe as in Australia. So it gets even worse because the same word doesn't actually mean the same gene depending on which continent you are. Because when they produced Ghost, they had different genes than us. We produced it with our genes, and we both, like us, it's a caramel, them it's a hypo, but it produces both Ghosts. So now we have a ghost and a true ghost is what we're calling it, which is so dumb. But anyway, I agree with you. Like there's nothing more frustrating than how like the combination, like if you put an albino with a, I don't know, name whatever it is you want, albino with a hypo or something, it should always be called the same thing. An albino with an xanthic is a snow. But you see, like, yeah, that's like for us, that's an albino. Us, an albino in carpets is albino and xanthic, right? And you, it's an albino and an anery.
Right.
But an anery is the same thing as an xanthic, right? So, oh my God, yeah, you're
So the interesting thing about some of that is this idea of naming these different animals, different things, and somebody will contact me and they'll say, "Do you have a blizzard bull snake?" And so I don't know what they mean by that. And so I say, "Well, what genes do you specifically want?" And they're like, "Whatever makes up a blizzard." And I'm like, "So I want to know, are you a breeder who wants the genes that go along with what you say is a blizzard, or have you gone through a website and seen a picture of a snake that says this is a blizzard bull snake and say, I want that kind of snake?" Because I do have a white snake with pink eyes, if that's what you're looking for. But if you're looking for one with, white-sided or not white-sided or patternless or not, I need to know those differences. But if you're just looking for a white snake with pink eyes, I got one of those.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think that is people doing the kind of Google search kind of thing, or on Facebook, you see somebody post a blizzard, but there's no real, like, this is what goes into it, right? It's kind of like sometimes people assume you know or should know when it's like, well, like you say, right? Like with bull snakes, you got a couple different things that could kind of go on to make a white snake with pink eyes, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, no, it's all pretty cool. So do we want to maybe get into some more of those oddball species that you work with and kind of how you've been successful with them? Like maybe we can go like I choose one and then Dom choose one. I know Jay wants you to hit on. She's brought up a few things that she definitely wants to hear about Mollendorfi, the hunterflower rats, and the Peruvian calico snakes, which I also want to hear about.
Mike, I'll let you go with Glenn for like 3 minutes. I'm just gonna go put my daughter to bed, and then I'll come back. Okay.
All right. Okay, let me start with Mollendorfi. Here's a picture of a hypo. Oops, sorry, I'm not pushing enough buttons. There we go.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, this is a picture of a hypo and a normal, and these guys are. Oh, you know what? Maybe I can. They're just really cool snakes. The hypos have a little. I would describe them as a little more orange. The normal's a little more red, and at times, I think as really young babies, the hypos look a lot better. I think as they grow, the normals start to look better, but then as they age, I think the hypos start to look better again, and it kind of has to do with how much color you can see, and the normals start to get a little darker as they get older, beyond just normal adulthood, and so they're a fun snake to work with. They are.
Yeah, how have you found keeping them in California? I know Jay sold me hers for like a year, and then I sold them back to her, kind of thing. And now they're actually breedable size, right? It takes 5-6 years to get them up to that kind of size. But like they did fantastic, just ambient in my snake room, going like sometimes like because in Vancouver the room would like I drop my room down into the high 60s at night,
Okay.
even in spring and fall, and then I would keep them in an area where they'd get anywhere from 73 to 80, maybe, kind of thing. And
Yeah,
I had no issues with them feeding. They would eat fantastic, kind of thing. So I'm wondering what you had in terms of that.
yeah, very similar. I keep mine on the lowest shelves in my room because that makes a difference of about 5 degrees in my room. Um, and keep them the lowest shelves with no heat, so ambient. And my room is air conditioned and heated, so it's in the low 70s generally, and it maybe fluctuates 3 or 4 degrees either way. So they rarely would get above like 76 or 78. Um, and um, and wouldn't really get below, other than brumation, they wouldn't get below 68 or so. Um, and they eat well. They're interesting. They are big on being motionless, and so you open the tub, they don't move. You pick them up, they stay the same position they're in when they were laying on the ground. um, and then eventually they realize, okay, I think he sees me, even after you pick them up, and they start moving around a bit. And it's interesting because they're just very mellow and you can handle them and hang out with them. And then sometimes they're just like, okay, now I'm going to bite you. And they are very slow. And so they're like, now I'm going to, and it's more like, now I'm going to act like I'm going to bite you. So quit messing with me. Um, but they get to a pretty good size. My male normal is really getting up there in size. But I got eggs from. I've got a pair of normal het hypo and a pair of hypos, and I got a clutch of eggs from both of them. All all four kept in identical conditions, um, and all both clutches incubated identically, and all of my normals came out. Well, first of all, only two eggs made it to the end of incubation on my normals. One was born without an eye, and one was born with a horrible, like a club tail. Um, and then I had, I think, 8 or so hypos. All of them came out perfect, everyone. So I'm not sure that it was both, all four of them. It was their first year breeding, so I'm assuming that had to do with it. Um, but anyway, they're fun snakes. I really enjoy keeping them. They're very easy. They do definitely want humidity when they go into shed. They're very comfortable not having humidity when they're not in shed, but they will not shed well unless they've got good humidity when they go into shed. Um, they tend to have a preference for rats usually over mice, but they'll reluctantly take either.
Yeah, I kind of found like one, like the male was maybe a bit more outgoing and would take food a lot more readily, or readily off tongs, while the female, he just had to leave a couple in there and she'd probably eat one, kind of thing, every
Yeah,
week or 2 weeks.
I
Really.
I can almost never get them to take it off the tongue. I always offer it to them because I'm so used to rat snakes, seeing a little movement there and nailing it. But these guys, they just will sit. They just won't move. They're just frozen. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'll leave it in here. And usually, yeah, I open it up about a half an hour later, and it's gone.
Yeah, I find
But
that same thing with the Transpecos. For me, they do the same thing. I have one female that won't even take off tongs ever, even as an adult. You just place the adult mouse there, and she'll grab it. Or even the babies too. Like I got like one baby will take pinkies off the tong kind of right away, and the others you just leave it in there. They'll eat it in a couple minutes. But it's just kind of
so,
funny.
are those live?
No, I was able to get them on frozen thawed for the Transpecos pretty quickly. Like I think one or two took frozen right away. I fed a couple live for a few weeks and then was able to just drop feed them. Same with the Kentucky pines. I found drop feeding was a lot easier to get them going over trying to
I
feed them off tongs.
I've had multiple versions of attempts of raising Trans-Pecos, and I have not done. I have not had much success in getting them to eat um, frozen thawed. They always ended up with one or two of them would only eat live, and because I don't feed live very often, if something only eats live, I don't keep it forever. And so I love Trans-Pecos. I think they are awesome looking. They've got great behavior. They're just super cool snakes. And I've tried at least twice, maybe three times, where I bought like a small group and worked with them and worked with them and worked with them. And then after about a year, you went, no, I can't keep buying live for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm always fascinated when people tell me, "Oh no, mine's eating, no problem." There's a pretty picture of those.
Oh
That's
yeah, you can.
gorgeous.
That big male there. They look really
Yeah,
nice.
Glenn, you mind if we take a step back to your incubation? You were talking about how only two of them came out with let's go with mutations are not exactly perfectly right.
yep.
I'm gonna kind of add on the questions that Jane asked here, but she just wrote, "How do you incubate the eggs? Perlite versus vermiculite, egg grade, ceramic media temps. Interested to know." So kind of like how do you incubate? But my question is more, how many eggs did you start in there? And how many did you end up? Because I'm curious to see if maybe all of the eggs were doomed to start with, and you just somehow managed to get only two to go through, but they would have all ended up being like that. Anyway, if you don't mind going through the incubation, I'm kind of curious on that one.
I don't keep detailed records on all of that, so I can't give very real specific details other than um, there. It wasn't a great looking clutch to begin with. That's for sure. I think I only ended up with like 5 eggs that looked like they might make it, and so the truth is, the two that ended up hatching, I was very happy that they made it, but was not super surprised they had issues. So I think it probably had to do from the get go. They had some issues from the very beginning. When I incubate, I have the temperature at 78 degrees Fahrenheit. You'll have to do the calculation for your Canadians in Celsius. And I do, I'm way out the vermiculite, so I'll do in a Tupperware container that's 6 by 8 ish. I'll do 100 grams of a mixture of vermiculite and perlite, 50-50 mixture, roughly. Um, and I'll weigh out 100 grams, and then I'll add 100 grams of water. And then I've got an airtight lid with one small hole, a 16th of an inch hole, a very small hole, but airflow works okay. Um, and I've found that is the best thing that works for me to keep eggs consistent. I have traditionally every year come up with a new idea that I think is going to be great, and every year it's worse. And so I either get them too wet or too whatever. And I've finally kind of gone back to, this is what I did previously, and it was pretty successful. And so I've kind of come up with a system that repeats that exactly every time. And I was just in looking at all the eggs that I've had in there now for some of them for a couple of months, and everything looks great. So um, I've tried raising the temperature a little bit. I've tried up to, I think I've done it. I don't know if I've ever gone over 80, maybe 80, 81, 82 at most. And I've gone down a bit, just trying to figure out a way how to not get an all male clutch again, which everyone says it doesn't matter. But when you keep getting males there all the time, you're like, something's got to be causing all these males, right?
Oh, I've actually seen it happen with cave racers too, where somebody cooks them or maybe keeps the adults too hot as well.
Yeah.
And then like they're all males, and then they also have kinks, and it's like, hey, so
Yeah.
obviously there's probably a correlation there with. I think like as Owen on NPR kind of showed, you can incubate stuff really cool, and it'll hatch. It just might take forever, but I think colubrids like maybe there's something that maybe moles are something that should be more at like that 75, 77, and that would help a little bit, but who really knows, right? You
Yeah.
kind of have to play with it, or maybe having like where you get some of those old school guys that just throw the incubator box in the room, and the
Right.
room drops down to 70 or
Yeah.
goes up to 85, or somehow that works
Yeah.
out in the end.
The truth is, my room is not very different from my incubator for my colubrids, and it is more consistent than my room. But again, the room is more consistent than it is outside. I guarantee you that. So, you know, I think we maybe I think I worried too much and tried to make things more complicated than they should be. And so I think this year we should do well. I haven't gotten Mollendorfi eggs this year, and I'm not sure I will. The females have not put on the weight like they did last year. But I also don't remember when they bred. Some of my colubrids breed really late in the year, and I think that they fall in that category.
Yeah, I think they do.
So I don't know what I think that answers most of the questions I can remember about.
Yeah,
the
it's good.
incubation.
So one thing you brought up was you're kind of thinking of sex determination on temperature, right? I'm kind of curious on that. Is there any colubrids that have been proven, like truly proven for sex determination? Because I'm
No.
listening to you, and I'll tell you where my brain is going. My brain is going, you simply got two full male clutches by bad luck. Like, because I've had full clutches of all males, but I've also had full clutches of all females. That doesn't mean that it's determined by the temperature. And the reason I'm saying that is I'm trying to see if there is actually documented proof of it happening at all, even in snakes. I don't even think there is any snakes that are.
Right.
Am I wrong in saying that, guys? Like,
no, you're correct. Everything I've read and seen is that it doesn't affect it. I will hear people say that it affects it every once in a while.
But I mean,
But
anecdotal
never any
people have,
proof. Yes.
people see 50-foot snakes all the time, right? And their pet boa, their pet Burmese python was 50 feet, and the one at their neighbors that they touched when they were 3 years old, that one was 60 feet, right? So
Yes.
we can all say that kind of crap and believe it with a grain of salt, right? So the reason I'm asking is because I really didn't think, like, I know it's definitely possible in lizards, and that's all been, well, what is it? Lizards, crocodilians. There's
I think
a couple of other turtles. Yeah, there's a good amount,
leopard
right?
geckos.
Yeah. So, but in snakes, I didn't think there was any true thing. But
I've never heard.
I get the superstitious, like every time I do it 77, I get all male clutches, so I'm going 79, right? And I get doing that because to me it'd be like, well, why not, right? And I always
try something different, sure.
Yeah, like I joke around with Shan that breeds Womas. He only produces males. I've been trying to get females from him, and he only produces males. So again, is it because of the way he incubates? Let's be honest. Like tons of people produce Womas, and there is no sex determination on temperature, right? But one could lead your thinking to that. So anyway, I putting my 2 cents there.
No, I appreciate pointing that out. I am fully aware that was a superstitious attempt. And I'm not above that. I do that with quite a few things. The way I put them together, sometimes I play music for them. Sometimes lights out, candlelight. I definitely try different things that I know in my brain, this isn't going to work, but I'm going to try, if what I'm doing is not working, I'll try something that I don't think will work just to make it different. And and I didn't really have any expectation that would make a difference. But this last year I had a clutch of rough scale pythons, and I ended up with 9 males, 0 females. And obviously that was in a different incubator.
So to give you an idea, here's my story is that every year I incubate eggs, whatever. At the end of the season, I just wash out the bins real quick with water, rinse them out, whatever, I let them dry. The next year, I don't even wash the bins. I just put water, I get new sponges. I just incubate water, sponges, egg crate on top, or that light diffuser on top, and I put the eggs. And I've been doing that for like 7 or 8 years, and I never have any problems with mold, nothing. This year, before the year started, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to put every single thing in high steam dishwasher and just sterilize the shit out of everything. This is my worst year with mold. I have mold in every single egg bin. I have issues like no tomorrow. So now the key is don't wash your bins. You know what? Like, and you're talking about superstitious. What did I do differently this year? Like all the light diffusers, I put all the light diffusers in the dishwasher, high heat, washed everything, right? So what did I do differently? I cleaned the shit out of everything that goes inside the incubator. And I'm having the worst problems with mold in every single bin everywhere. So I get it. I get your thinking because right now
you moved your entire collection mid-breeding season. But
okay, yeah. But there's been a lot of issues that I probably could compound everything. But
Right.
all I'm telling you is I'm not fucking washing anything in the dishwasher again because I'm attributing one of those factors to that. So, you know, like, do I believe in superstition? I honestly don't. But if there's wood there and I think I'm going to do something fuck up, I'm going to knock on wood. Like, I hear people always saying, like, I don't talk about my clutches. I don't post anything till the babies hatch. I get why people do it, right? But so I get it.
And sometimes it's not the most obvious. Maybe it's not the cleaning, but things you did to make it clean. Maybe there was something that happened. It's not the cleaning itself, but it's the process that created something that you weren't aware of. So by not cleaning, then you take away that other thing that we're not thinking about. So maybe it really did cause it, but not the way we think it did. So who knows?
Yeah. I probably cleaned all the bins, then put my hand in shit, and then when I was putting all the bins together, I just spread that everywhere, and that's where the mold came from, right? Let's be honest, like it's probably something stupid like that, but yeah, I get it.
Well, at times I'll make the decision. The thing that I think is most effective is the thing that's easiest for me. That's when you've kind of done all the different calculations. You're like, you know what? I've got to stop making this so complicated for me. So yeah, it's an interesting process, but I enjoy it every year, and I do feel like kind of dumbing it down and being consistent with the water vermiculite combination has been and lowering it a little bit because I did and cutting down on the amount of airflow because I did have some drying out issues, which then you add water and then you get mold issues, and you just kind of keeping it simple has been helpful for me this year. So hopefully I will have success, and then hopefully I won't decide next year to improve on it by making it worse, which is what I normally do.
Yeah, I know with my incubating, I kind of took it. I listened to what Chris Painshab said or suggested to me for the pine snakes, and then I carried that over to the Trans-Pecos and doing the what was it, the 1-to-1 weight ratio between water and perlite.
Yep,
And
yep.
I found that kind of keeps it dry, and then what is it? I do kind of leave a decent sized air hole or two in the incubating kind of bin where it like they keep humidity. Like with the Kentuckys, don't really have to worry because they're like massive eggs, so they just kind of fill up the entire 6-quart bin, and no matter how many holes you can put in there, they're probably going to do just fine. But I kind of, for some reason, I found going on that drier because that 1-to-1 perlite ratio is fairly dry for the most part. Like it's like it literally like you take the weight of the perlite and the weight of the water,
Yeah.
not just like it's
very
not
dry.
too moist. Yeah,
It's way drier than I ever picked before when I was eyeballing it.
Yeah.
My old approach was I want it as humid as it can be without being wet. That was what I thought. But the 1-to-1 ratio is way drier than that, and it has really helped things from getting moldy, and then getting those flies or mold in there. It's things seem, even the ones that are going bad don't, get all nasty.
Yeah, like they kind of shrivel up a little bit over time. Like some of them kind of, yeah, like they don't get really gnarly at all, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I think I remember the old what it was how I think I originally learned, right, is watching Brian Barczyk do it'd be like the vermiculite mix, and you need to add enough water until you can clump it up without it
Right,
fully dripping
get
out,
all the
right?
water out. Yep,
Yeah,
I remember those days. Yeah,
I think that was
I think
the
that
old
was
days
what
of
you
watching
always
him.
heard.
Yeah.
So my thinking with incubation is it doesn't matter what you're using, what works, you should just keep with it. Like I don't incubate with any type of substrate whatsoever. I've tried them all, but I've done honestly over 50 python clutches on purely water, something suspending it. I've ended up going to sponges because it works really well,
and it
and
doesn't
suspending it
splash.
over, and it reduces splashing. And I've done over 50 clutches with 95+% of incubation rates. So I have a shit year with tons of mold and everything dying. I'm not going to change it now. I know it works, right? So
right.
if whatever you do, if it works for you, it's not because you have one clutch that goes bad that it means the whole system doesn't work. And there's so many goddamn different ways of doing it. Like you talk to 20 different people, everybody does it differently. And it's almost tough, right? Because you keep hearing on podcasts, I do it this way, you do it this way. And then everybody's like, oh, I'll do what he does and maybe tinkle with it a little bit and move it a little bit the way he does. And then you end up taking 25 methods, and every season you change a little bit to the point where how are you supposed to know even what's wrong or what's the problem? I don't know. I think people should just kind of figure out what works for you and just stick with it and stop like listening to what everybody else does, or pick one person. You know what? From now on, I'm doing it only the way Michael does it because I want all my eggs and everything to look like Michael, or actually not look like what's up with that hair? I had to bring it up one more time. It really hit. Like, when's the last time you had a haircut?
It looks good.
Yeah, probably like February or January.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Anyway, if we're done with the subject you were talking about, the one thing I'd love to go into is I have to talk about it is rough scale pythons, because I'm the probably world's worst rough scale python breeder because I still have not successfully bred them. So I'd love to go into how did you do it? What's your method? Like quickly and
funny? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go for it.
What's funny is I was going to say, how do you not breed them? I thought the reason we all can have them is because they're so easy to breed. We have so few available, and then we, so many people have the opportunity to have them now, that I don't know that I have much of a trick. I feed them, handle them occasionally. I do think there is an advantage to handling your snakes. I think people are a little too nervous about handling their snakes because that'll that's not the way it is in the wild. They're not wild snakes. And so I think snakes that are afraid are less likely to breed. And so if they're in there, every time you open the tub, they're going after you and you're going after them, and there's just stress in their life, if you will. I think they're less likely to breed, certainly less likely to kind of, live I'll use the word happy, if we can say that about snakes, life. And so I do tend to handle my snakes so that they feel very comfortable in their environment. They know that this big animal that opens their tub and puts food in there is not planning on hurting them. And so I pull them out, I handle them, I hang out with them, take pictures of them, put them back. And I do think that is one of the things that is helpful for some species. I'm not sure that rough scales are one of them. But I just tried to keep them healthy, um, fed them, put them together, and she laid eggs.
Any cycling, any temperature differences, any
I
you
mean,
didn't cool them down, stop
I,
feeding them?
I not really. I don't do a good job of cycling my voids, because I've got baby or yearling colubrids in the same room during the winter. And so I will drop the temperature at night, but it's hard for me to get it below like maybe 66 or 68 at night. And normally it gets up to just above 70 during the day for the winter. So it's cooler in the winter than it is in the summer, but it's not. I'm not dropping the temperature a lot.
Yeah, that's still a reasonable cooling though. Like especially if you consider how far north they are. Like it's to me
Okay,
that's probably if anything perfect.
yeah, it's one of my struggles. I think I'm trying. I need to get my Zanzinia a little colder, which is one of the things I'm struggling with. So I'm trying to figure out that balance of things. But I wish I had some sort of secret. Um, they have been really pretty good at just putting them together. They hook up, and she gives me eggs. Now, here, admittedly, I've got. I'm talking as if I know something, which I obviously don't. I've got my first year of breeding them was last year, and I got a nice clutch, and all the eggs hatched, and I got 9 males. She looks very gravid right now. She's refusing food. I think she's going to give me another clutch, so that would make me an expert, I think, once that drops. But as of now, maybe I'm not the expert. So I don't know if I have any real secrets. Um, so
Hey, it's all good, man. You know what? I can't even get mine to lock up. So, and I've got a trio, and I've checked them so many goddamn times. I'm positive I have 2 females and a male. So maybe I just don't have a compatible trio, but that's very cool. I've heard from a couple of different people that they can be tough to sex. I personally don't think so. Have you had any issues sexing them, especially as babies?
well, I don't. Well, here's the thing. Riley sexes all my
Okay.
boys. So, um, so he told me all males, and I was like, let's double check that. And so, yeah, I don't know is the answer to that because I don't do that.
Okay, because I was gonna say I've talked to Don Patterson a few times, and he told me that he's had issues of sexting a lot of males that turned out to be females later. So he now is questioning the whole sexing. Man, I sorry, like you're just flicking through the pictures. What the heck do you use to take your pictures? Because they're insane. Like the quality, the pixelation, I can see every single scale, man. Like
Yeah,
it's just impressive. Are you inside a light box? Are you using an actual
I'm
DSLR? Or
I'm using a pretty nice camera.
okay,
I kind of have upgraded with as I sold snakes. I used my phone, and then I got kind of a nice entry level camera, and I like photography anyway. And the snake income kind of gave me the freedom to spend a little bit more. And so then I got a pretty nice one, and then I got a really nice one, and then I got a super really nice one. And so these pictures are mostly just with a very nice, expensive camera and a nice flash. And so many of these are just they're in their tubs, and I'm sliding it open and taking pictures. That's why you don't see anything around them because I crop out all the ugliness.
and just by curiosity with the flash, I'm just curious because so often when I take a picture, it's either whitewash, or there's too much light, or it's too dark, right? Or you end up taking a picture and you're like, you just brighten everything up to bring them to the color where what you see, right? But like
Yeah.
you have like no loss of like any quality. It's insane.
I have a big diffuser on my camera.
Okay.
So it's a big flash and it's above the camera and then it diffuses the light everywhere. So you don't tend to get those hot spots that bleach out the area.
Insane pictures. Anyway, sorry. I imagine it's Mike probably flicking through. Is it? Yeah. And like,
No, it's Glen.
do it.
Glenn's
oh, it's you.
Glenn's
Like,
able to do it.
damn.
So, and actually, any guest or even you, Dom, could share their screen as well if they feel like it.
Yeah, but then I would need to be competent enough. Actually, I know how to share my screen. I've learned how to do that. I'm not that dumb. But beautiful animals, man. I wish you another clutch. Like, I'm guessing, is that picture that she just eat? Like that picture you showed, she looked gravid, or she just had a meal in her.
I think she had a meal. I think I did have gravid pictures, but I evidently didn't put them. Oh, this is the night before she laid, I think.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say, because that looks gravid. Like
Yeah,
that's just
she was flipping upside down and uncomfortable. And I was like, oh, this looks good.
oh, that's well, good for you. Anyway, I've heard from everybody they're as easy to breed as carpets, everything, and I'm just not having any success. So every time somebody talks about them, I got to know if they've been doing something differently, because it's not working out for me. But very cool.
I apologize. I would say the same thing, that they're
No worries. Mike,
let me say this. Maybe if I were to say that there's something that I do that maybe is unique, and that is I do keep them together a lot. I will feed them even non-breeding season. I'll put them together, let them hang out together, and separate them to feed. Maybe I won't put them together in between that feeding, but the next time I feed them, I'll put them together afterwards, just so that they're friends. Courtship.
And I actually raised my trio together for about 2 years or so, until I had an incident where one wrapped the other while I was feeding babies, and like 6-7 feet away, and they just grabbed each other's head, and just it went horrible. So after that, I've stopped cohabbing. But I honestly, I wanted to keep them together because it gave them more floor space, more perches, and they looked freaking cool together. And I did it for a couple of years. Now I've stopped. I'm saying that, and they're being cohabbed right now, but it's breeding season, right? Or it's the end of breeding season. But I do agree. They look freaking cool, all bundled together and perched together.
They smelled food in the room, is what you're saying?
So yeah, so I was feeding. So basically, if I feed adults, everything gets separated, and then I feed all the adults. But neonates, I'm feeding every once a week, right? I'm not feeding my adults once a week, but I unthawed rats for the babies, which I feed once a week. When they're when all your babies hatch, you got to feed them. You're feeding them way more than adults, but those baby rats that I was feeding is enough to have all the adults perching and just have the S just waiting for food. The two roughies are like this. One twitches, she grabbed her, and that was it. Yeah. And so after that, I started thinking, you know what? It's just easier to keep everything separated. And yeah, so now if I'm feeding anything, everything gets separated. I'm not taking that risk again.
Gotcha.
So what I was going to say is, Mike, if you want to pick the next species, maybe go down or
maybe the Peruvian. I think I really want to hear about those Peruvian calico snakes, because them and the hunter flowers were from that episode with Stan Grumbrack and Matt Most that Owen and Eric did back in 2018 or 19. That was a phenomenal show. I think somebody needs to bring Stan back on a podcast, I think, because he has some really cool knowledge kind of thing. But the calico snakes here are really neat and still super underrated.
Yeah. I got these from Stan, and the Peruvian calicos are an interesting snake. They are a pretty dry species, and I provide a humid box for them for shedding. Sometimes just leave it in there, but definitely for shedding. But otherwise, they stay pretty dry. They stay very small, and they are known to be cannibalistic. And so, and the male is way smaller than the female. Um, and so, uh, they're one species that I'm very careful about putting together. In fact, I got eggs from this girl this year for the first time. This is their first year they really had reached sexual maturity. The eggs look really good and they still look good. They're about a month in the incubator. Um, and I'm, uh, I, I am very cautious. I was surprised she actually laid eggs. I've never seen them hook up, and I don't really leave them together much when I'm not watching them, or at least in the room listening for wrestling. Um, but evidently they hooked up. Oh no, I did see them hook up. They hooked up in a paper towel roll. It was really weird. She was in the roll and her tail was out, and the male was outside of the roll, and he had wrapped up on her tail. And I was like, well, that's a good, safe way to do it. So yeah, they did hook up that one time ish, but they're pretty small. I mean, even as adults, she's not much thicker than my thumb, and he's the size of your forefinger, thickness wise, and she's maybe 3 feet, something like that. And he's probably about 28 inches. So they don't get very big. They are so docile. Um, and I handle them pretty regularly. I don't know how they'd be if you ignored them, but they're pretty docile, mellow snakes. They definitely hide 100% of the time. Um, they're always buried in substrate. Every time you open the tub, they definitely are barriers. Um, but yeah, they're a fun snake. They're pretty. They kind of have a similar. They keep that similar pattern even from infancy, but they get a little more color as they get older.
Yeah, they look super neat. They've been on my radar for many years now, kind of thing. Yeah, they just look so cool and they're so different, right? And they are rear fanged, correct?
Yes, they are rear
Yeah,
fang.
yeah. Another one of those oddball South American colubroids.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, they're definitely cool, and they've been on the kind of my wish list for maybe one day I'll need to import some into Canada, kind of thing. But yeah, no, they're really neat, and yeah, because there's only a few of you guys working with them too. Obviously, Stan's been working with them for probably 10 years now, along with Matt Most, but
Yeah.
they're only I still don't see too many. I think maybe Christian. Uh, Jocks might have some, but other than that, I don't see too many people with them.
Yeah, Stan really established these guys. See how much darker this male is. He got a little bit lighter, but he's got
Oh
a lot
wow.
of pattern to him. Stan evidently raised them up and then had the male, the female eat the male, and so he had to raise a baby up again. I believe, if that's the story as I remember it. Um, and I've had similar frustrations with some breeds I've had, where finally get them up to adult size, you put them together, and something bad happens. And yeah, I had my male um, have a hemipenes uh, prolapse on him, and he ended up dying from it. It got infected and messed up for not this species, but for my Ravengeri, what are those black-headed spotted whip snakes.
Oh
Raised them
yeah.
up to adulthood, I was so excited to breed them for the first time, and the male died in the process. And so, still have not produced a clutch from those, but I hope to. Maybe this year the female is going to give me some eggs. So there's the pair together.
Oh yeah, that's a good picture. You can definitely see the orange going through. They almost have that like Jamaican boa kind of orange to them, right?
Yeah,
Where
yeah,
it's like that orange or the yellow, depending on the shade of Jamaican.
yeah.
I think I really just like the calico look. Like you were showing earlier, what was it? The beauty snakes as the calico gene, and these with the
Mhm.
calico. It's insane how that distortion of pattern is just gorgeous. Like it just makes it like I really love them. And that one, the orange one, like I guess they both have orange, right? It's
Yeah.
just
The male's a
such
little
a
more
cool
yellow.
color.
I would describe the male as a little more yellow, and the female is orange.
That's gorgeous. That's beautiful.
Mm. Yeah, so
Uh,
I love to have stuff like that. That's you don't really see every day.
Do you mind if I ask without, you don't need to go too much into details, but I'm always curious, like, especially when it comes to colubrids, I find some colubrids are like have a really low price point, and sometimes it surprises me how expensive someone are. What are the approximate values of those?
Um,
Or
they're about $1,000 each.
okay,
Is
so
pretty.
that's an expensive colubrid then. Very
Yeah,
Oh
cool.
yeah, I think the last one I saw was maybe 13.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, because there really isn't too many people working with them, and they're in that like high demand kind of rate, like kind of like how Matt Most was it those red racer things? I forget their name is
Oh yeah,
escaping
with
my
the
head.
white when they're babies, they have the white heads. Is that the
Oh,
one?
the red and black striped snakes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Like those things, like he spent like a massive amount of money trying to establish those things, and he's still kind of hoarding all of them after keeping them for 10, 15 years now. Those would be another one that's going to be probably way more than that. But eventually everybody should have them because he seems to have them pretty established. But
So
yeah.
you'd mentioned the calico. This is a non-hypo version of the Chinese calico that I got, and I think this one looks pretty amazing.
I was gonna say I think I actually prefer the non-hypo because I love the
Yeah.
that weird like almost greenish brown. It's I
Well,
don't know.
what's interesting with the hypo one is I specifically wanted a very low pattern version, and so I went with one that the female produced low pattern, and so she looked more. My male looks more like a palmetto, and then this one is more of a patterned um, calico, and yeah, this one just looks so cool.
Agreed.
So yeah, anyway, this girl just laid eggs for her first time. She bred with the hypo calico male. So
Oh
I'm
yeah.
hoping I'm looking forward to seeing what those babies look like.
Am I seeing some? Are those some Sherman line Okeetees there?
Good eye. They're actually a cross. These are Craig Trumbauer produced, and he took Howie Sherman's line of pure line Okeetees, and then he got some Kathy Love pure line Okeetees, not the normal Love line, but pure
Yeah,
Oketee line from Kathy, and he bred and produced this line, which
that is.
I kind of call them perfect Okeetees
Oh,
because
that's exactly what I would use.
they are textbook Okeetees. And so this girl is actually, this picture's maybe 6 to 8 months old. She is sitting in a nest box. She did her pre-lay shed a couple days ago. So that'll be her first clutch too. So I'm looking forward to that. I can't
Yeah.
remember you asking about.
Oh, those are some nice. I wish we could keep San Diego gophers in Alberta
Oh,
because like Alberta and BC are the same, where we can't keep any catenifer complex due to bull snakes being native to Alberta and Great Basins being native to BC. So they just kind of ban. At least they didn't ban the genus like they did with garters in BC, but we can't. I can keep my pine snakes, but no gophers, sadly.
oh, yeah. Well,
Oh, these are Dom. These are awesome too. The
So
royal
these are,
diadems.
pay no attention to the name. I I don't know if how I picked up this name, but it's not the right name for them. I think
Oh
it's
yeah, yeah.
sometimes referred this way, but they are black-headed royal snakes. They are a rat snake, but black-headed royal snakes. Um, there is a similar related species that's a diadem rat snake that doesn't develop the black head. Um, so anyway, you can see how they develop over time. At 6 months, they just look like a pretty simple, lightly patterned brown snake. And then they start developing these little black splotches as they start to grow, and then they get darker and darker. And still, this is only 24 months, so this snake has developed a little bit more since then. But I got my first clutch last year, and I believe the female's about to lay her second clutch this year, in the next few weeks. But
And
these are great snakes.
did both the adults that lay the clutch have nice dark pigmentation like that, and all the babies were born like a light pale brown?
Yeah, they're all born
Yeah.
like that. The only difference is, oh, I thought I would have the other one there. Sorry. I've got another one. There's a melanistic version of that I have as well.
I'm only asking because it almost looks like an IMG, right? Like
Oh yeah, they are, and they actually. So I think some of them, if I'm not, I think Glen will pull up more. They actually get a good orange red like thing around their neck too, and then with that black coming in, like they some of these adult pictures here will really show you.
Yeah, you can see the orange coming in.
Yeah, these are very sought after animals because these are they from the middle, like Pakistan or something, where we can't get any fresh blood or something like that, or India, or no?
I don't remember.
Because the diadems come in because they come in the Egypt or Middle Eastern shipments.
Oh,
So you
okay.
get that's why you'll see the brown, just regular diadems, which are
Mhm.
kind of these, but they're just brown. They're probably fun snakes to keep, but nobody really has put too much effort into them because these guys, which are like pretty uncommon, and there's only like Glenn, you're probably one of maybe a handful of people that breed them every year, if that, right? Like sometimes there's probably
folks,
nobody.
Yeah, there's a few folks out there that are breeding and producing some really nice ones. Yeah. I brought mine in from Poland.
Oh yeah.
And so yeah, they're fun. They're the melanistic ones are very uncommon, and it's basically this pattern that they develop that gets darker and darker. It's like the whole snake is made of that. So it's when it's born, it looks basically identical to the other babies. And then the first shed, it starts getting a little darker, and second shed, the saddles are darker, and it just keeps getting darker and darker. Where these start to develop the darkness in spots, and then those spots get darker and darker. So the melanistic one is essentially an all black snake as it matures.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think I remember seeing some of those too.
I don't know where. I got a lot of pictures.
I was gonna say at some point, if you want to go through those ring pythons, because god damn it, they look good. I'm just looking at that. Like I cannot believe the beauty of a baby ring python. Can you imagine an adult actually looking like that?
Would
Like
not be something.
it's incredible, and I honestly think your pictures make them look like way too nice because it's insane. Like that looks like it almost looks like you painted it. It doesn't even look real. Like the colors are so vibrant. It's beautiful. By curiosity, do you have pictures of your adults, or did you produce these?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd love to see pictures of your adults just to see the different colors.
Yeah, I think your adults are actually really like nice looking rings too, right? Like they still have that like kind of nice color.
Yeah, I call it I call them bronze. They're bronze and black, and the iridescence really pops.
And I'll apologize, but I'm trying to bring it back to Python sometimes because I can't let Michael have all the fun with the colubrids all the time.
So she's sitting on a clutch of eggs.
Wow.
And this one actually is a striped Bismarck ringed python. Do you see the stripe running down his back?
Yeah, I was going to say either stripe
Oh,
or aberrant, depending on how you want to call it, but it really does look like it's perfect. Is it fully striped down the back?
Fully striped the whole back, yeah.
Oh, that's not a common look that we see often.
So you can see that really shows the color well. But they're still very iridescent, and even more iridescent than his babies.
Yeah, like that picture there almost makes you think of those the true water cobras that have like that. I don't know. They have the rings and like that. Like I think they're a little more greenish tinge than the bronze, but yeah, no, they look like that kind of.
So I got to ask, all those pictures that you took on that turf, is that like, do you have just a setup with turf and a rock just to take pictures on it? Or is that what you're keeping them on everywhere?
No, the funny thing is these pictures that look like they're, kind of in a studio white box or something, they are just on a table. I just have a small table on top of a rack that has white PVC surface on the top. So all of these white pictures just taken at a small table in my room. And this is with a small piece of AstroTurf sitting on top of that white PVC. So it's just I take them there.
Do me a favor, blow up one of the striped Neos. Incredible. Like, I'm just like, look at that thing. Insane. That striping is so wide and wow. Wow. I think we need some of those here.
Yeah, well, Cody Joe has some. Cody Joe made that fully patternless one, but that thing's gonna probably just be a brown.
yeah, that's the problem with that element. But incredible babies, that's for sure.
Yeah, that one was really neat.
I mean, it's not like. In fact, if you go to Wikipedia and look up Bismarck ringed pythons, the main picture in Bismarck ring python is my ring python. On Wikipedia, they had this horrible looking brown thing on there, and so I loaded some of my pictures onto that site, just so that people would see they don't necessarily grow up to be just a brown blob. And somehow mine got moved to the top of the Wikipedia thing, so it's the main picture now for Wikipedia, or
That's
at least
pretty
it was
cool.
last time I checked.
Yeah, that's probably going to help the species.
Yeah. Well, I got sick of people saying, "Oh, they turn just solid brown as adults." That's them locked up.
Yeah, no, they look awesome. I love that banded look though too. Like I love both looks. Like I think they all look kind of neat how they are.
Yeah, and it's nice. You can see when I lower the lights and do a lot of flash for some of these pictures, so that the iridescence pops. You can see that iridescence pop out.
Are you keeping the adults the same way as the babies, like same really high humidity?
I would say this about it. I don't. I heard actually you used the term wet earlier for these and Brazilian rainbow boas, and I would suggest no one ever use the term wet for keeping these snakes. Wet is bad for them. They need to be humid, and they need to have moist, not wet substrate. These guys have thin skin, and I think they absorb a lot of water through their skin, which is why they have trouble shedding when they stay dry. So I currently am keeping them with this cocoa, and about half cocoa and about half peat moss, because it really will hold the moisture in with and not create wetness for them. Because I think wetness begins to give them scale rot and respiratory issues, but they need that moist substrate that they can sort of bury in or wrap in.
So two questions to follow that up. Are you kind of letting the substrate dry out a little bit, then re-wetting it, dry out a little bit? Are you kind of doing the back and forth? Yeah. And the second one is, sorry, just to re-ask the same question. Do you keep the identical thing for neos as adults, or are you
Oh.
keeping the adults drier or not as wet or not as moist, whatever word you want to use?
I keep neonates. I normally will keep in a smaller bin with a paper towel, and then I make a dry paper towel, and then I put a wet paper towel back on heat in the back of the bin, so they can go kind of bury themselves underneath that paper towel, but they can also get off of both the heat and the humidity, and it's humid in the box anyway, but they can get off of the wet by getting into the drier part of the thing. I think it's helpful for them to not always be wet. I think I'd say it that way. So, and again,
that's a good tip there.
sometimes I have a strong opinion about that, but I am not an expert. There are plenty of people who kept these way longer and way better than I have ever, but I do believe in that particular element. I wrestled with Brazilian rainbow boas for a long time, trying to find a proper balance for them, and finally decided Colombian rainbow boas were better for me.
I find there's those species that just require that high humidity, and one of the ones that actually surprised me is pygmy pythons. I found that if I keep my pygmy pythons just not caring about humidity, I have shedding problems all the time. And now I've just started just wetting this. I went off from. I keep them on substrate now, not on just paper, because I find that I have too many issues with their shed. And with substrate and just misting it once a week, where I keep it nice and wet, like I make it wet, but then within 2 days it's dry, and then it dries out, and then I wet it again. And I found that has fixed all my issues. There's been so for me, I keep them definitely wetter than any of my other Australian pythons. I don't really care them. I don't even have any ways of testing humidity in my house. Like I don't care. I don't check it. I just know the species that I have issue with are the pygmies. I guess I cared for Brazilians. They were a pain in the ass too. I had to keep higher humidity. And now the rings are ones that I need. Oh, and the rough scales. The rough scales, I try to keep higher humidity in there too.
Oh, interesting. I keep mine super dry.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I have zero issues with shedding, but once a week I wet down the substrate. I keep on cypress mulch.
Yeah, mine stay very dry, and if they're going into shed, I will spray them and the substrate around them for the shed, but they stay very dry. And yeah, and like if I have substrate that's dried out, I don't mind making it wet, like on the top. But I think you get into a problem, and I get this sometimes because I'll have a big bowl in there and I'll be sliding the tub, and it'll make the whole thing wet. And so as long as the bottom isn't sopping wet, it will absorb that moisture. But once the whole thing's soaking wet, there's no place for that moisture to go, and it just becomes a bog. And I occasionally have to deal with that because to me, that's not a healthy environment for the snake, especially because they're going to the bathroom in that area. And so I want to make sure that I'll pull out about half the substrate and put in completely dry substrate, and then mix it up again to kind of absorb that moisture.
Yeah, that makes sense. I kind of came to the same conclusion that Dom did with the pygmies, but with my Kenyan sandbows that I've had for 15 years, I still have the same animal. Like they're my first snakes, but then like forever I kept them on aspen. Like that don't necessarily shed great on aspen, right? But then I just keep them on cocoa and then keep them dry. But then they go into shed. You just dump the water bowl out in the cocoa, and that kind of solves the issues. Because I guess the more when we all think about it, you realize like even though it is from an arid environment, right? Even in Australia, you dig down a foot and then it's 95% humidity underground. So even in Africa for Kenyan or any sort of sandboa or fossorial animal kind of thing, it kind of makes sense when you think of it. But yeah, no, these are really neat, Dom. These are the they're in the same genus as mandarins, but they're even cooler.
Japanese forest rats, and they've got a pretty cool pattern. And then my female has really lost her pattern a lot as an adult. So I think this is the male.
Are these the Gifu, or are they?
Let me.
That one almost looks patternless.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she lost so much of her pattern.
I think there is other localities that actually have maybe a patternless, but yeah, there's a few localities of these that
Here you can see the
I
pattern
think,
a little bit better.
yeah, it was Rex Knight that brought them over from Japan, right? And then Matt Moats kind of carried on the different projects, from what I believe.
Yeah, I got these from Chad. Chad, I can't think of your name. Golden Coast.
Oh yeah, yeah. He does the Dominicans and the Trans-Pecos, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen his Dominican red that he produced?
Oh yeah, those are red.
Holy cow! Yeah, that's a whole new world. That he's one of the guys. He keeps a lot of stuff I keep. So a lot of the things that I have that are pretty rare, he is also producing. So it's fun to chat with him about some of the things he's doing.
These guys, I've heard, can be kind of a pain sometimes, just by like they'll go take those hunger strikes, or they really love that really cool temperature kind of thing, or at least when you're starting the babies. Like I think Matt Most said, sometimes they don't even eat for a year, kind of after they hatch out. But yeah, no, they're
I bought these guys feeding, so I didn't have to deal with that. I haven't produced babies from these guys yet. Last year, the male's a bit smaller than the female, and he is a more temperamental feeder. He tends to prefer live. She will eat every time she's given the opportunity. But she did give me 4 long, skinny slugs, which to me, I think she was a little small to be producing them last year. So I'm hoping that this year maybe they'll produce good eggs, viable eggs. But yeah, they're a fun snake, and again, pretty much all of these snakes are pretty easily handled and mellow. But again, I try to handle them somewhat regularly. Usually, every time I open their tub to clean it, I tend to want to just pick them up and let them know, nothing's threatening them, and have them kind of be comfortable with their environment.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, these guys are on my wish list as well for maybe one day in the future kind of thing. They're definitely not a cheap snake to buy at all, because they only have a 1 to 3 eggs.
Yeah, they've got a small clutch, that's for sure. Yeah. But yeah, I just dabble in a few of those things, and my only pythons are the rough scales and the tricolors, and varying success with that. I struggled with my Bismarck ringed pythons for a while, producing. They produced great for a couple of years, then they cut it off, and I became convinced that I was overfeeding them, that they were just too fat and happy to breed. And so I've cut back on their food and messed with them a little bit. And last year they produced again, and then this year that aberrant female looks like she's about to lay some eggs. She's clearing out a spot, so
that'll be cool.
Hopefully, yeah.
So I think I have Dom. Do you have any more questions, or should I go with the kind of like a final question?
You can go final. I was actually, the only thing I was going to say is just by curiosity, are you keeping most of your collections in tubs? Are we all talking about racks, or yeah? And the next thing I was going to say, oh geez, did I just forget? What size of collections are you keeping? So are you like 20 snakes? Are you 100? Are you 500? I'm just curious to see what kind of numbers we're talking about.
Total of my collection.
Yeah, give or take. Like you can separate maybe the neos, your collection of grow-ups and adults, let's say.
Yeah, that's about 120, 140, somewhere
Okay,
in that
it's
range.
decently large group. And how long does it take you to clean them all? Let's say today is cleaning day. You clean and change all the waters. You're talking about what, 3 hours, 4 hours?
Um, Probably a
Two?
little bit more than that.
Yeah.
If I'm doing I never do all of them. I also
Okay.
have a ton of babies left over from last year. So that's yeah. So if I was just doing my snakes, I call them my snakes as opposed to the snake I'm selling. If I was just doing my snakes, it'd probably be about 3 hours. Um, but it's probably more like 5 or 6 hours when you factor in a billion little baby tubs that have to be cleaned and put new paper towels and new water dishes in.
Fair enough. Mike, go for it for your closing.
Alrighty. So obviously, like you hang out with the kind of the Trumbauer kind of gang. Do you have any? Is there anything that those guys are kind of working with that have like you either want to work with, or they've kind of have they kind of turned you into a direction of keeping, or kind of how has that kind of affected your?
Um, well, if they, yeah, there's a couple of things they work with that they get me interested in, and then I'm like, well, what about and I've kind of gone round and around with that. What I ended up doing was I ended up getting those perfect Okatees, as I call them, and I love those snakes. I love Okatees. I loved them from early on, and those guys are just so nice. I don't think they're ever going to demand a giant price because they're kind of common. But I love having if there is a common beautiful snake, I love having an extremely good version of it. And that's also true of my palmettos. I have incredibly good genetic line of palmettos, and so I got into those. I thought about doing the Mexican Bairds and the Hypo Bairds.
Yeah.
Um, Tony actually got me into the Eastern rats, the black rats, the rusticos. If you're familiar with that terminology,
Oh, I
it's
think so.
calico. It's het, calico, het, leucistic, and they sit on the same allele, so it creates a different look. And that is a rustico, and it's a really cool looking black rat or Eastern rat snake. And so I've gotten into those. So I'm kind of having fun with those. Dennis McNamara almost got me into the short tail pythons this last trip down to Daytona, but I was able to resist in the last minute.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fun to hang out with those guys. They've got a lot of fun projects going. Every year, I'm tempted to get a pair of Craig's unicolor corn snakes that we talked about,
Oh yeah.
and but yeah, they're great guys. Man, do they know their stuff? A lot of
Yeah.
years, a lot of expertise. I feel silly hanging out with them because what do I have to say to contribute to that conversation? But it's fun to hang out with those guys. They're all good guys, and yeah, so I've enjoyed getting to know them. Oh, by the way, I got Craig. Craig contacted me about the Envy Snow zombie phase gophers. I
Oh
posted
yeah.
I posted a picture, and he calls me on the phone. He says, "This is Craig Trumbauer." I was like, "The Craig Trumbauer." He said, "I'm really interested in this zombie phase Envy Snow you have here." He goes, "I'd like to buy a pair from you." And I was like, "I could never take your money for a snake. You've done too much for the hobby." So I said, "I just produced the best male I've ever produced. And I'm going to send him to you with the female." Um, and so I ended up sending those to him. And man, he produces some really nice snakes from that pair. And he was gracious enough to send me a really nice female from that breeding last year. Actually, he didn't send it. He says you can pick it up in Daytona because he doesn't ship snakes.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
and so I ended up getting a really nice female from him that I think will breed this year for the first time. But yeah, that was fun. And then he gifted me some red Zeppelins, which are locality Okatee albinos, amels, and I bred those for a few years. But those guys that group was at the forefront of those red Zeps. And I don't know, I've just had trouble. They seem to be flaky. They, when they get into adulthood, they won't feed, or they'll lose weight, and so various people are outcrossing them to try to help deal with that. But I eventually just was like, I don't want to. Again, part of my thing is I want really healthy, good specimens. And I finally decided I'm not sure that's just something I want to spend a lot of time in crossing and breeding out and that sort of thing. So that's a fun group.
Yeah, no, I got my breeder female Kentucky, and then one of the female Trans-Pecos is from Rob.
Okay, yeah.
He makes some cool stuff. I really need to get down there and go down to Daytona and meet all those guys.
Yeah, you should. It's a great trip. I went one year for once in a lifetime, and I've been back every year since. So it's a good trip.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, thanks for having me on, you guys. I really appreciate it. It's been fun.
Awesome. Chat. Well, I'm happy I asked you to come on, because this is exactly what I thought it would be. It was fantastic talking with you and everything.
Very enjoyable. Honestly, that was a great talk for a Collier show. I enjoyed it. So you know what? You did good.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Glenn, listen, if anybody wants to buy anything from you or get in a hold of you or anything like that, or ask you where you got your shirt, how do they get a hold of you?
They can contact me through Morph Market. I've got a Glen Reptiles on Morph Market, but also Glen, if you look up Glen Reptiles on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok at this point, Glen Reptiles, you can contact me through all of those things.
I'm impressed you got TikTok, because that's something I will not go on.
You know what? All the kids are doing it. I had a young friend that had a funny TikTok page that he was doing. So I downloaded it to watch his stuff. And then I was like, well, this is kind of the next evolution. I was Facebook, and it was Instagram. And it's like, seems like this is where the younger age is. So I thought, well, I'll start a group. And I was convinced that I was going to surpass this kid because I had so many followers on those other media sites. And so I got on TikTok and I made videos about snakes and did these funny, I tried to make them TikTok-ish, like weird. And I couldn't get any traction. I still only have like 100 followers on TikTok. So now I don't spend too much time, but every once in a while I'll throw something up there.
Very nice. Hey, all good. I'm not going to go on it. I've got Instagram and Facebook. I figure if somebody wants to reach me, they can find me there. I'm not doing that. Yeah. Well, for anybody reaching out to Michael, it's Michael Gillian on Facebook, right? It's just your name, if I remember well. I don't know why I'm blanking out. If you're reaching out to speak for us for the podcast, it would be Reptile Rejects on Instagram. You'll be chatting that up with Mike. If you're reaching out to me, Dominic Calvino on Facebook, or Dom's Reptiles on Instagram. And for everybody who's listening to it live, thank you. If you guys want to listen to it right away, it's always on YouTube. It's pretty much live and it's posted right away. If you're listening to it on any of the podcast platforms, please subscribe. Please put some comments, anything that helps. It is always, I think, give or take a week or two late. I think we might be up to 2 weeks early now.
Not quite sure. I released the Dave kind of podcast separately, but in the same week, just so it was spread out for fun.
Now we're only 1 week ahead. I thought we were doing all good. We could miss 2 shows.
You guys got to get after it.
We got Adam. Actually, if anybody wants to join us early Saturday morning, we got Adam from The Expert and the Idiot on. So that's going to be a fun time.
It's important to say we're doing it Saturday at what time? 8 or 9?
I think it's probably 9 o'clock Eastern
9
time.
Eastern time. Okay, so that's...
Yeah, I'll post a day or two ahead, so if people wish to watch.
Sounds good. And except for that, Glenn, again, really appreciate having you on. That was a really great show. I love all the pictures. Really, I'm impressed with the like your pictures are incredible. Your animals are gorgeous. So, and it was great talking to you. So, to everyone, thank you for joining. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you all next week.
Right. Thanks, guys.